cars, and how many different classes of racing have we got going on within this one race?
Well, we have three major classes that you're going to see out there. There's the GT class, which ranges all the way down from GT2 down to GT4. We have the IP class, which is improved production, which we have IP1 through IP3. The larger the number, the smaller the displacement of the car. And we also have the Performance Racing class, which is a racing school car, and it is basically a stock car with a, not a absolutely like a showroom stock car, but like a NASCAR stock car with a detuned motor, and which they use for schoolwork. And they also have a series of these cars, and you'll see a number of those Grand Prix and Monte Carlos out there.
So before you think this thing is pretty top-sided with how in the heck is a guy running a 510 Datsun, which has to be 20 years old, supposed to compete with a guy running a 300ZX Nissan or even a Porsche 911 like we have under Richard Spinard. But rest assured that the organizers have worked this out, and they have factored this in so that the racing within the race will be pretty much as equal as we can make it. And the guys that we will be watching carefully, John Baudouin and Richard Spinard, who qualified 1-2, and that should be a great dice from a relatively young racer and a guy who has a world of experience in Richard Spinard.
That's right, and even though the names like John Baudouin may not be household names and splashed across the pages of the newspaper in the sports section, they are very good, accomplished racers in their own right, and it'll be really interesting to see how they do against Richard Spinard.
John Baudouin's an old buddy of mine, and I'm trying to remember, when he went to Formula 4 driving school back in Quebec, that would have been in the mid-70s, I'm guessing now. But when John took that driving course, you know, there's a real possibility that his instructor was Richard Spinard.
That very well might be the case, and we'll have to see how the instructor and the pupil square off against each other. John has run this track in the past, and not in this current configuration, but he's used to running through the city streets and the walls, and he may have a little bit of a slight leg up, but with the new configuration, I'm sure Richard Spinard, who is a quick study, has figured this track out fairly well.
What has happened to Vance Swift, the man who gave us an awful lot of excitement in past editions of the Sports Car Club of British Columbia Sedan Invitational? Vance Swift's name is not on the entry list. What happened?
Unfortunately, Vance's new car is not entirely legal for the classes that were selected to run here. So he went to his backup plan and asked the gal who owns the RX-7 that he's raced in the past, and she's currently embroiled in a championship fight, so she was reluctant to give up that car to allow Vance to run this race. So unfortunately, he's going to have to sit this one out.
That must be killing Vance Swift. I'm sure that he made all sorts of promises about, no, you can trust me, I won't hurt it, I won't hurt the motor, I won't over-rev it, I won't use the brakes too hard, trust me, it'll all work out fine. But she wouldn't go for it.
That's the story I hear, that she wouldn't go for it, and if you're involved in a championship fight, you really have to think twice about giving your car up, especially in a city street like this with those concrete walls. And you can well imagine if you make a mistake or get a competitor in your way and something goes wrong, the damage can be quite severe. So unfortunately, he's not with us this year, maybe next year.
We have drivers from certainly all over the lower mainland, as well as the Pacific Northwest, down in Portland, Oregon, Washington State. We also have a number of competitors who've made the trek over the Rockies, most of them from Alberta, and we welcome those guys. We certainly think that Richard Spinard will have to get the long distance award because he's come from North York, Ontario, and that's the furthest afield that someone has come for a Sports Car Club of British Columbia Sedan Invitational race. But in the past years that this event has been part of the Molson Indy Vancouver, all the fans that stayed to the end of the day to watch this have come away going, wow, that was great. There wasn't a dull moment. There was action all around the racetrack, and these amateurs, and I don't mean that in any kind of a pejorative way, but these guys who don't get paid to race, in fact, guys who pay to race, put on an absolutely first-rate show.
Yeah, and if you've been here in past years, we've witnessed some really humdinger battles going on in the front of the field and also all the way through the back. And with 50 cars on the track, there's always something in front of you. So it's non-stop action all the way around the track all the time. So there's no gap in the action. Everything's in front of you at the same time.
As we look at the Grand Prix that and the Monte Carlos that we see out here from the Proformance Driving School, if I have the financial wherewithal, I can get behind the wheel of one of those cars.
Definitely. You put your money down, and it's really simple. The school will take you from ground zero, supply you with all the equipment, show you how to race, teach you, tutor you, rent you the cars, everything. Turnkey operation. And if you don't have the inclination to work on your own car, transport it, this is a dynamite way to go racing. Everything's done for you. It's an arrive and drive program.
We saw the number 3 car there for a moment up on the giant screen. That is the car of David Lamb out of Vancouver. That is our GT4 fast qualifier. So in addition to keeping track of where these cars are running overall, we'll also be trying to sort out some of those class battles. And in fact, Spinard is in an improved production 1 class car. The pole sitter John Baudouin in that number 75 yellow Datsun 240Z. He is from North Vancouver. And that'll be your front row. Willocks in car number 6 sitting in the second row along with the 40 car. That's another one of the IP1 or improved production 1 entries. Tony Riddle from Vancouver. And then back into row number 3, starting 5th on the grid, is the driver out of Spanaway, Washington, Steve Valentinetti. And Valentinetti also in an improved production 1 car that is also a Porsche. So some of these race cars have certainly got a long history of racing out here in BC. Looking a little bit further back on the grid, the number 20 car that's starting 26th on the grid, an improved production 3 car. So that is improved production 3 as opposed to Spinard's IP1 class car. And that is Mike Boyle, who used to run in the old Honda Michelin series up at Westwood for a number of years. But he was the quickest qualifier in his class. So we'll try to keep track of some of those class battles during this 45-minute run here this afternoon. Believe the Neon Pace car has headed on to pit road as Spinard and number 75, John Baudouin, bring them off at turn number 14, looking to the flaggers stand as they try to hold positions. And there's the green, and we're racing in the Sports Car Club of British Columbia Invitational as they charge into turn 1. We've got contact, a couple of the Porsches coming together, and Spinard getting collected into that as well. Cars going through on the inside. Big traffic jam down here in turn number 1. I believe that was the 17 car of Valentinetti, and the other Porsche also got collected in there as well. And they did a nice job of avoiding a bigger pile up there in turn number 1.
Yeah, that was Steve Valentinetti, Jack Ondrak, and you see Steve Valentinetti's car quite crumpled on the right-hand side. We don't know whether he can continue. And we see our pole sitter, John Baudouin. He's gone overshot somewhere, starting to get the car turned around. And the other car involved, you said Richard Spinard, that first lap, first corner incident.
Well, here's a replay of that as Valentinetti in the 17 car moves down on the inside, just pinches off. I believe that's the 44 car it is of Jack Ondrak, the Edmonton, Alberta driver. Just shoved them right into the wall. There simply was not enough room there for him, but he moves over. Here he is. He dives for the inside and squeezes the 44 car of Ondrak right into that inside wall as the 2 cars slide across the racetrack. There is Spinard. He gets boxed in as well, and I believe Spinard did get going again, but we now go to a caution flag here at start finish. Is this a full course yellow? It may be.
Yeah, it looks like a full course yellow out for in order to clear out the accident in turn 1. And there may be some debris around the track that they're going to have to clean up. And we see another car. It's car number 24, one of the Proformance cars. Looks like he's gone into the wall as the action has already started in the first lap around, as we have a full course yellow as the cars get slowed down. And I believe we may get the pace car out on this one in order to clear up some of the mess that's on the track right at this moment.
Car number 24, that is David Martin Smith. He's from North Vancouver, and as we see the car number 17, Steve Valentinetti, he is coming in. That car is severely wounded. That looked almost like an open wheel incident there, Pat, the way that those 2 cars climbed up on top of each other. And there we'll take one more look at that incident as we see Valentinetti on the make a dive over and just squeeze the car number 44 of Jack Ondrak into the wall. And there goes Richard Spinard simply backs out of it and waits till those guys come to an end in the tire wall.
And there we see it.
There's what happened. So it wasn't the first incident at all. It was, and the crack team of Molstar Sports and Entertainment bring it to you live, and as it happens, as Baudouin gets taken out by the guy behind him, number
78 car of
that's Bernie Jamil, and driving one of those performance cars, and he just took a little wrap in the back, John Baudouin did, and spun him around. Doesn't appear to be any damage on the car right now. We'll have to wait and see. But I'm sure John's not very happy about that, as he got tagged from the back and got sent into almost into the wall. We'll see if he can continue and make up some spots from the back of the field.
Well, you know, you live by the sword, you die by the sword, and John Baudouin got criticized last year at this event for a maneuver that was not unlike that that he put on Van Swift's, and there was some controversy about that particular incident at last year's event. So I guess what goes around comes around. As we look at car number 44, that is the car of Jack Ondrak.
Well, he did get pinched off on the inside there, and I believe that car still parked into the tire walls in turn number 1. The 17 car of Steve Valentinetti is parked there in the support class pit area. He did get out of the car. Looks like he's gone back in, and they may yet try to get him back out. But again, we do run under a full course yellow, as there you can see big damage to the 44 car. The right front tire and wheel assembly and part of the suspension has been damaged, and they will push him down the escape road, and I believe that's where they may leave that car. That rim is pretty much junk on the 44 car of Jack Ondrak. So it's a long way to come to Vancouver from Edmonton, Alberta. As we said, we saw him in action back in early August when he ran as part of a support class program of sports car races in conjunction with the CASCAR National Championship road race event out there on the Edmonton City Center Airport. As we look at our neon pace car working its way around the racetrack, the field single file, as we're hopeful here. Now they get the indication, one more lap around and we'll be set to go back to green. So that is the indication as we look at the cars going through, and we'll give you a rundown here momentarily, at least of the top 10. Your race leader behind the pace car is the number 78 car,
Bernie Jamili out of North Vancouver, driving in one of those Monte Carlos from the Proformance Racing School, and this is pretty much as Ray described it, a rent-a-racer.
That's right. You can plunk your money down and rent one of these race cars as long as you've got your racing license and all your required personal racing safety equipment. You can get involved in the Proformance racing program. And if you want to find out more about this racing program, you can just amble on down either today or tomorrow down to the Sports Car Club at BC Paddock, which is on the south side of the site. Visit the folks at Proformance and they'll tell you all about their exciting racing program. That's right, he's a very strong supporter of all forms of motorsport in the Lower Mainland, and he's come out, stepped forward and said, I'll help you guys out in sponsoring the Sports Car Club at BC Invitational, and that's great to see, as it looks like we've got the green flag once again and we're under race speed once more.
Charging into turn number 1 as we go back to green. The number 78 car is your race leader as it's single file here on the restart. That is Bob Thompson in one of the performance class cars, leading. The 50 car running in the second place spot is Gerald Patesy. That is another one of the performance cars. And then running in third overall is that little SGP sponsored Honda Civic, the number 3 car there of David Lamb. As they work around the racetrack, there's your battle of the evening. Lamb, then the number 4 car running in fourth is John Grosso, then Glenn Nixon in the 77, back in the 5th place spot, and that it's another performance class car. So 4 of those performance school cars running up here in the top 5. We are watching the progress of Richard Spinard. There is a passing attempt, and he'll do it at the end of the long straightaway, taking over what is now the 4th place position. So now the performance cars running 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is the battle for 5th off of turn number 9 and now 10. That 99 car now has moved up. That is Red Sumaru who has moved ahead of the number 3 car of Lamb as he puts the Honda Civic around. But again, they're running in different classes. Lamb in a GT4 class, car number 3, and then that 99 of Subaru.
Interesting to see the horsepower advantage of the big V8 American NASCAR type automobiles showing their muscle at the early stages. But with all that horsepower also comes an awful lot of weight. And these guys have got to be careful that they don't tear the tires off those fairly heavy stock cars, allowing some of the lighter, more nimble cars to come through and snatch victory away from them towards the end of this race, because these guys are engaged in a pretty heavy-duty battle amongst themselves right now. I'm talking about cars number 4 and 77, and 77 was some pretty extensive front-end damage to that car as a result of an earlier incident. But 4 and 77 are going at it hammer and tong. That could conceivably play into the hands of someone like very smooth, very gentle Charles Bernard, whose Porsche appears to be unscathed as car number 19, Charles Bernard, works his way through the field. Looking at the lap chart to see if he's
He's running in about 23rd position at the moment unofficially. He continues to carve his way up through the field. When he finally got unstuck here in turn number 1, he was back, I would think, somewhere around 35th or 40th. And there's Spinard going around another car as they go through that switchback at turn 6 and 7. Richard Spinard, the veteran in that number 19 Porsche, climbing his way into the top 20. And he will be very, very shortly your race leader. And this is the lead battle as we look at the giant screen. The number 78 car of Bob Thompson leading the number 50 of Gerald Pates as they work around the racetrack.
That's quite a quick pace they're running right now. Whether the cars can keep up that pace is still in doubt. The cars have been known to, if you push the brakes too hard, the brakes tend to go away. And also the tires, they're running on radial tires, so that's also a consideration as they're side by side going through turn 2 and 3. It looks like Bob Thompson is still managing to hold off Gerald Pates, but it's a good duel right up front of this pack. As further on back, Glenn Nixon, who's an instructor for Performance, is battling with John Grosso. So we'll see what happens with those 4 lead cars as they're not separated by a whole lot.
That action that Thompson and Pates are engaged in, as we look at some more of it, it's great for the fans, and it must be a lot of fun from the driver's seat, but it is slowing them down, and they're falling back into the clutches of Grosso.
Oh, we've got a problem here on the racetrack as well. A car spinning, and that is down in turn 1. That is one of the performance cars, the number 5 machine spinning down there as we go back on the giant screen. The lead battle on the short shoot between turns 8 and 9. Taking a look on the inside was Gerald Pates. Can't get around that 78 car of Bob Thompson as we got a terrific battle for the lead involving the 2 performance class machines.
But good to see Bob Thompson out front here. He's a local racer who's done a lot of racing internationally and in Canada. And he was in one of these invitational races a couple of years ago. And then on the very first lap, he got turned around inside the tunnel on the old track and got hammered into the wall. And his race was over before it was really even started. So it's good to see him out front. And he's going to try and hold off Gerald Pates as long as he can.
The number 3 car there of David Lamb still leading GT4. He runs 6th overall. As we look at some of the other battles a little bit further back, I think the next time they get around here to complete lap number 6, Richard Bernard will in fact have climbed his way into the top 20. And this is a pretty good battle as well, involving the 99 car of Rex Subaru and the number 3 car of David Lamb. The battle for 5th, 2 different classes. The 99 Datsun is a GT2 class car. Number 3 Lamb in a GT4 machine. Again, up on the giant screen, we see the battle for the lead. Thompson, number 78 in that white performance car. Right behind him, just a couple of car lengths, the 50 of Gerald Pates. And then not too far behind is that number 4 car that continues to inch ever so closer. And that is John Grosso. So a pretty good 3-way battle up front, gentlemen.
Watch it here, because here comes number 50. That is Pates, and he's making the pass. Nice clean maneuver under braking. He got Thompson on the brakes, made it stick, and now immediately opens up about a 4-car length gap. And in fact, Thompson looks like he might be falling back slightly in John Grosso's clutches. Here's the pass once again. Take a look at it on the replay. Nice maneuver, nowhere for Thompson to go. Thompson gives him racing room, and the pass is made.
Bob Thompson looking in his mirrors, looking around. He knew exactly where Gerald Pace was. Didn't pinch him off, gave him racing room. And I don't know whether Bob's got a problem or whether he's just going to take his time a little bit here and serve his car and hopefully have some tires and brakes at the end of this race.
This is going to get fun now because the front runners, the fastest cars on the racetrack, are catching up to the slower, less modified, more closely resembling street legal cars. And traffic is going to be a big factor in the remainder of this race.
That's right, and John Grosso now is in second place. And he's going to threaten for the lead just in a second here. I'm sure he wants to make his way this as we see car number 78.
Well, he appears to be having a problem now. That car is not handling as well. I think he has dropped well back. And now the battle for the lead involving the 50 car of Gerald Pace and the 77 of Glenn Nixon as they work down the straightaway. Just a couple of car lengths separating that pair as they work towards turn number 8. These are both performance class cars. The 50 of Pace. Oh, and he sticks it into the tire wall at the end of the straightaway. The car just pushed out to the outside, and all of a sudden, number 77, Glenn Nixon, who had been third across the line on the previous lap, has worked his way up into the lead as we work lap number 8. So a new leader yet again as that 77 car now of Glenn Nixon has gone into the lead.
Here we go again with the replay of car number 50. Gerald Pace just the car pushes out, does not turn in, and he goes straight into the tire wall, bounces out and recovers pretty smartly, all things considered. But I think that we've got to think about now, Ray, is what you talked about, and that is the fact that brakes may be getting a little hot, tires may be getting a little slick, and the car's performance are changing as the race matures.
And you've got to watch out. Look in the background of this shot here, and you see who's sneaking up there. Car number 53, Harold Schmidt in that 240Z. While these big performance cars are sliding around a little bit, Harold has been nice and smooth, and he's managed to creep his way up, and he's trying to make his way forward. So watch out for him in that orange 240Z.
Also, another factor is that the 240Z will be running on pure racing tires, whereas the performance cars will be running on shade street tires. And the performance advantage of racing tires, racing slicks, is unbelievable. So it's going to be difficult for those guys in the street tire machine to hold on to racing tire class cars.
That's right. As we look further back in the pack, still quite a few duels happening as cars are very closely bunched. The lead group is maybe broken away a bit, and we see Richard Bernard cruising in and trying to make his way past that pack. And it should be getting very tight here as we see Terry Ward right behind Eric Galvin. They're battling away there. I think they're in the same class, if I'm not mistaken. Both running in the IP class.
Yeah.
Well, your race leader continues to be that 77 car, as far as we can tell out there on the racetrack, with the number 4 running right behind. There is Spinard, number 19, as he continues to run back up through the field. Richard Spinard working his way down through the lower loop as the race leader, as far as we can tell here. That 77 car going through. There's the 4 and the 50. So I think our scoring monitor just a little bit awry right now as Richard Spinard has worked his way up onto the back end of this 84 car that was posted in 9th. And now we've got a spin here by the number 4 car of John Grosso. So he will lose a number of positions. The 78 car of Bob Thompson going around, as well as number 3, David Lamb. So again, that'll shuffle the running order.
We see those 3 cars just ahead of Richard Bernard. That was Tony Riddle in that yellow Camaro sneaking up onto the back bumper of Terry Ward, and he's going to try and make that a 3-way battle for that class.
Well, we show the 77 car going through. There is the 50 running in the number 2 spot, and then the 53, I believe, of Harold Schmidt on a turn number 8 at the end of that long straightaway. That number 50 car in a turn 9. And again, Gerald Pace, who they are showing in the lead, but on the racetrack, number 77 has made his way around. And in our rundown here, that'll put Glenn Nixon up into the lead.
I think you're absolutely right. I think that Glenn Nixon is the leader because Pace had that
there. That is Rob Landry, who overshot one of the turns there at the end of the straightaway. Turn 8 has been the problem spot. He will get it going as number 77. Your race leader going through into turns 1 and 2. Then it's the 50, 53, a couple of lap cars. Then the 78 of Bob Thompson running in the 4th place spot. And I believe David Lamb in that STP Honda Civic, the GT4 class machine, is running in 5th as things have really strung out. Unless Richard Spinard lost a lap, he just went through. He is running 7th on the racetrack. At least from our rundown here in the tower, our official scoring monitor showing us a little bit different, and they are showing Spinard there in 13th. But on the racetrack, he is right behind the number 97 car, and that would put him about 7th or 8th on the racetrack.
I believe our scoring monitor on the booth here is just maybe a lap or two behind what we actually see on the racetrack here. So we'll have to sort of keep one eye on the track here, one eye on the monitor as we watch on the racetrack as Harold Schmidt looking for a way by to turn 1, but nothing there. I'm sorry, that's turn 9.
This is a battle for the lead. This is car number 77, Glenn Nixon, and he is being caught and, well, not quite fast.
That's the battle for second place between the 50 and that car behind him, the number 53 of Harold Schmidt. Your race leader continues to be that number 77 car. As we look for them to roll back into start-finish, there he is, 77 off into turn 1 is your race leader. Now that battle for second just coming on to start-finish, and they are in traffic into turn 1, the 50 and the 53. There's your battle up on the giant screen for second and third. Then the number 78 car still holding in 4th is Bob Thompson. David Lamb in the number 3, that STP Honda Civic, the GT4 car, is in the 5th place spot. And there's Richard Spinard taking a dive down on the inside into turn 1. And on our board here, Spinard is up into the 6th place position. So I believe our scoring monitor may be running a little bit behind as they input all those numbers into the computer, a little bit behind what's actually happening on the racetrack.
So now it becomes a matter of time. You said, Pat, that this was a timed event. 35 minutes is the limit. And Spinard has got about 14 minutes left by my watch to see if he can get the job done. And that's going to be, it gets tougher. The further up the front you go, the harder it is to make those passes. So has Spinard got enough time to reel in these guys who are in front of him? And boy, he's been knocking them off like Skittles so far. But we'll see whether or not it does, in fact, get more difficult as he makes his way through the pack.
Well, there's Richard Spinard, a control slide out of turn number 8 as he works on that short shoot here in front of the support class bits into turn 9. And we'll check the rundown here and the difference back to Spinard, who I believe right now is the fastest car on the racetrack. That number 77 car of Glenn Nixon continues to run up front. There's Nixon up across start-finish. He'll put another lap in the books. The battle for second involving that 50 car that is now being shown in second. Gerald Pates, then the 53, then the 78 in the 4th place spot. And then Lamb in the number 3 STP Honda Civic. And then we should see Spinard up across start-finish. There he is, heading into turn number 1. But we're looking at the battle between that 50 and the number 53 cars is the run for the second place position, as our computer monitor now has brought us up to date on that. So car 77, Glenn Nixon, your leader. Number 50, Gerald Pates is second. 53, Harold Schmidt is third. Bob Thompson in the 78 fourth. David Lamb in that GT4 Honda Civic is 5th. They were showing the 97 car of Eric Galmut in 6th, but Spinard has since passed him. So Spinard is in fact now in that 6th place position. I believe he's the fastest man out there on the racetrack.
So the computer is almost caught up to Pat in his old-fashioned method of sticking his head out the window and watching him go across start-finish, which isn't too confusing in some classes. But man, in this kind of racing, when you've got 50 different cars out there, I just keep my hat up to you, Pat. Nice job of keeping us up to date.
All those days at Westwood many years ago.
When we were going, what's a computer?
Well, that 77 car continues to run up front. There's been some great personal battles all the way through the field here, Ray. And a call to, I believe, we saw Mike Boyle, number 20, been running 15, but he's not up there on the board. So he has been having a pretty good run in his IP3 class car, but he does not come through. Here's that battle continuing.
Chance for Schmidt right here as we come through heavy traffic, and Pates finds himself sort of stuck, well, really stuck behind the slower cars. But Schmidt unable to get the job done there. That seemed like a golden opportunity to take advantage of the slowing traffic.
Yeah, I don't think he wanted to take a chance at that point. It was really tight, and there's a lot of curves in that road. Couldn't really see what was ahead, so I think he wanted to wait till there's a more open spot to make a pass, rather than risk tangling with some of the slower cars and putting himself out of tire.
Well, Spinard, although he's running in 6th overall, is leading that improved production 1 class. Your race leader in the number 77, and there he is up on the giant screen. He was involved, I believe, in that first turn incident. He did damage the left front of the car, but it does not appear to be slowing him down as he works the short chute between turns 8 and 9 down at the lower loop. As he continues to run up through traffic, that number 77 car of Glenn Nixon. And oh, we've got contact there involving the 50 car that had been running in 2nd of Glenn Pates. And it looks like that may drop him back. So there is Pates. Some big damage to the left front of that car.
That's right. He looks like he's tangled with somebody. And we'll have a look-see. And with his battle with Harold Schmidt, he's trying to outbrake him, and is it just a matter of a little too late on the brakes? It looks like he locks the front right wheel and just left it a little too late, and those radial tires, maybe not quite as much grip as those slicks that Harold's got in his car, and in a bid to try and hold Harold off, he's just left his braking a little too late, and that's cost him big time, as he's now dropped back probably a couple more positions on the racetrack.
That was like a replay of the first time he did that. He's been into that tire wall 2 times now, bounces out, and gets on with it twice. Nice job. These cars from the Pro Performance organization are obviously tough. I guess if you're going to get people who are renting them out, driving them in this kind of competition, they better be able to take it.
Oh yeah, you want to build them tough so they can stand the beating weekend after weekend, and that's just what they've done. The tire repair is doing their job just as they're designed to do, allowing him to just back away from that wall and continue racing.
Nice job by Harold Schmidt, who just waited and waited and used the often underrated patience maneuver to just outweight the competition as the car number 50 overcooked it into the fence, and Harold waves as he drives by and takes over the place.
And that's what I was mentioning earlier. You got to pick your spot to pass, and if you get too excited or too ambitious too early, you can lose an opportunity by tangling. He just put a little bit of pressure on the competitor in front of him and got him to make a mistake and commit too deep, and that's one way you can get around a fellow competitor.
We now go back to Race Central, and Pat Gonzalez with an update on the running order because the computer's gone a bit fuzzy again on us. So Pat, tell us who's winning and who's losing.
Well, it's still that 77 car of Glenn Nixon running out in front, one of the performance class machines. Richard Spinard at last count. There's your race leader, a cost start finish into turn number 1. We show about 10 minutes remaining on the clock. The leader has gone through. The 53 car now running in that 2nd place position is Harold Schmidt. And there is the 3rd place car, the number 50 of Glenn Pates. And there's Richard Spinard in the number 19. Now he has moved up into the 4th place position. The number 3 car of David Lamb running in 5th. Lamb's had a great run in that Honda Civic, the GT4 class car, and he's well out in front in that particular class. Of course, we've got 7 different classes running out here on the giant screen. You see Spinard in that Porsche running ahead of Lamb in the GT3 car, or the GT4 car, and Lamb's doing a pretty good job of hanging on to that improved production 1 Porsche as they work down through turn number 6, I believe this is here, that little switchback, turn 6 and 7, and out onto the long straightaway that runs down. The 78 car, as you see up on the screen, runs in the 6th place position. That is Bob Thompson. He had been up there near the front a little bit earlier, but he's dropped back into 6th in one of the performance cars. That's a Pontiac Grand Prix, as Spinard and Lamb roll back up across start finish. And definitely Spinard is putting on a big charge here. He's all the way up into about the fourth place position. The question now, with less than 10 minutes to go, does he have enough time to catch some of these other cars ahead of him? But of course, he is leading that improved Production 1 class.
Let us not forget John Baudouin, who's making a real charge from the very back of the grid as he's made his way forward through the pack and is trying to get up to the front end. He is getting, looks like maybe gaining on Richard Spinard, and will be very interesting as David Lamb, as you mentioned, is doing a sterling job in that little Honda Civic with that pint-sized motor compared to all these other cars out there.
So, can Baudouin get to Spinard, and if he can, does he have anything for him? Because he had enough to qualify Spinard, but can he outrace him? It's going to be a tall order with less than 10 minutes left in the event, and time now becomes John Baudouin's enemy, and I guess that you can say it becomes Glenn Nixon's friend.
Well, there is Spinard as we look up on the giant screen. Then Lamb, and at 75, the pole sitter John Baudouin, who is involved in that first lap incident. He is right behind that STP-sponsored Honda Civic. Baudouin in the bright yellow Datsun 240Z slides out as we look at 4th, 5th, and 6th place positions overall. They, of course, are running in different classes. Baudouin is a GT2 class, Datsun 240Z, Spinard in an improved Production 1 Porsche, and then Lamb in that Honda Civic is GT4. And we've got a car sideways in the chicane. That is the number 76 car that's gone around here in the chicane.
That's not a very good place to be sitting right now, as the cars, although they're going slowly, they've got to make a decision which way to go, behind them or forward. Or in front of him, and it looks like everyone's maneuvering by him at this point, but then all it takes is one inattentive driver, and he's going to get T-boned there sitting on the track. I'm sure the corner workers are waving that yellow flag furiously, and it looks like it's allowed John Baudouin to close up right on the rear bumper of Richard Spinard.
Baudouin up into 5th right now. Lamb being pushed back to 6th as they weave their way around that blocked portion of the chicane. And we're coming up on about 6 or 7 minutes before they'll see the checkered flag. David.
Well, I'm confused as to why these cars, you called it, Ray. They said that was one incident would lead to another. And it did, but I'm confused as to why that
full course yellow as the
out of there.
Car is blocking the chicane, and certainly that was the prudent call here to go to the full course yellow. Now, of course, this is going to bunch up the entire field. And we may yet see a challenge for the lead from the likes of Spinard and John Baudouin as we go to a full course yellow with just about 7 minutes or so to go. Here is the replay. That car spun and parked right in the middle of the racetrack. There's the driver in, is that 25 or 35? 35 is the car that, in trying to avoid the incident there, did spin the car around. And that is the reason for the full course yellow, our second here of the afternoon.
Yeah, that certainly surprised the driver of that car. That's Paul Bunbury of Whistler. He wasn't expecting to see a car fully right across the track like that, and he just jammed on the binders and spun that car around to avoid hitting him. So a good evasive maneuver on Paul's part.
Let's examine what this means. We've got a full course yellow. As you said, the field will build up behind the neon pace car. However, it'll be a pretty short yellow, I think, because I don't think it'll take too much to get that Toyota going again. All they need to do is get some safety workers out to it in a controlled fashion, give it a bump, and it should fire up, and they'll be out of there. Now, the other thing that this does, though, is it allows people like Glenn Nixon and the big heavy cars to cool their tires, to cool their brakes just for a little bit, because we're probably only going to have maybe a lap or two of action by the time we get this one going again. We're within the 4-minute mark now, so it's going to be sort of probably green, white, checker, all about within a lap of each other, I'm expecting.
Well, there you see the 4th, 5th, and 6th place cars going through. Up front, as we look at some of the class breakdowns here, your race leader, number 77, and it was a pretty good run forward, qualified 8th fastest, did Glenn Nixon, and that car is still parked in the middle of the chicane. They want to get all of those cars lined up behind the pace car and give the corner workers a break here to get that car out of the way. And in fact, now it looks like on these caution periods, rather than go through the chicane, they're taking them right through the escape road, and they're not even running through the chicane. So they're using the escape road there as you come out of turn 11 rather than make that turn to the left into the chicane where that car is parked across the racetrack. They're simply using the escape road there in that section of the racetrack. So the 77 car of Glenn Nixon, British Columbia, the performance school Monte Carlo. It is really a stock car, tubular frame. There, the corner workers doing a great job. We'll get that number 76 car off of the racetrack, and I would think in a couple of minutes here we should be set to go back to green flag, and it'll be about a 4-minute dash to the checkered flag. The 53 car sitting in that second place position, Harold Schmidt from Edmonton in the Datsun 280Z, qualified back in 13th. He is a GT2 class car. Then the 50, another one of our performance entries, Gerald Pates. And Pates is out of North Vancouver. Then Richard Spinard, listed here as North York, Ontario. Richard, I believe, has residence in Toronto. Did have a residence in Montreal, as well as one down in Boca Raton, Florida. And is running in fourth. That is the first place improved production 1 class car. Then in fifth, and this has been a great run up through the field for John Baudouin, who again was involved. He got tapped on that opening lap, started on the pole, our quick qualifier in the Datsun 240Z. He's a GT2 class car. And
lights are out on the pace car, Pat.
In the class, and we should be set to go back to green here.
Green
very
is
short.
out, and we are racing with just a couple of minutes left to go in the SCCBC Sedan Invitational. And has Harold Schmidt got anything for Glenn Nixon? Glenn Nixon has packed his bags, paid his bill, and checked out. And it looks like Schmidt got caught napping there because Nixon got a big jump when the green flag flew.
There are some lap cars out there. I believe Spinard has lost that 4th place position as John Baudouin has moved around. The GT2 class car should be a little bit quicker. And there you see that yellow number 75 Datsun 240Z has moved ahead of Spinard, who now is pushed back to 5th, but he's still your improved production 1 class leader. They run in and out of that little switchback. And as you said, David, not too much to go here to the checkered flag. Perhaps enough time for 2, maybe 3 more laps.
You see the front end of that car has managed to hang together there, although it's badly bruised. It looks like Glenn ran into the back of someone to cause that damage. We'll watch the last few little laps of this race. And the cars are trying to make their way and improve their positions. But how far they're going to get in a few short laps left, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
There is our race leader in the number 77 car out of turn 11, heading back into the chicane as the performance Monte Carlo of Glenn Nixon, the Mission British Columbia driver. Of course, he doesn't have very far to go to some of your races out there at Mission Raceway. And despite a little bit of contact off the start, as he works back to start finish.
Oh, no, look, what's
smoke. Smoke from that number 77 car. I'm not sure if that's tire rub or the first signs of an engine starting to let go.
It's the last lap. You saw the white flag on the starter stand, so whether he can keep that car together and underneath him for 1 more lap, that's the question. As we see another car is spun.
That's 78. The 78 car has looped it around. One of our performance class cars looping it around here, Bernie Jemile. And he has spun the car, but the white flag is out here at start-finish as they work their way around. There's the battle for the lead. Back into the switchback now with less than a lap to go. And now there is the 75 car. Oh, Baudouin hits the wall. And
did he actually hit it? I think he may have just grazed it. I don't think it's damaged the car any.
I think he did ding the right corner a little bit as we look at the lead battle here now between 77, your race leader Glenn Nixon, and that number 53 Datsun 280Z. 75 is still pouring it on. They make their way around turn number 9 in the lower loop as your front running 3 cars. The second and third place cars.
Oh, look at the first 3 cars all together. No, you can't get any closer than this as they're coming up to the last few laps of this race course.
John Baudouin on the inside will take over that third place position through the chicane for the final time. It's going to be a drag race out of turn 14 back to the stripe. Car number 77 trying to hang on with the checkered flag about to come out in the Sports Car Club of British Columbia's Invitational out of turn number 14. Here comes the 77 car. Here comes Baudouin, and he will hang on for the win.
First, second, third, right across the stripe. You can't get it any closer than that. John Baudouin, after setting the pole position, having problems, just avoiding missing, being taken out of the very first.
But right now, let's go to the victory podium for our presentations and check in with David Kincaid. David?
Thanks very much, Pat. Gives me great pleasure to be here on the victory podium for the Sports Car Club of BC Sedan Invitational, a fine organization that I used to be a member of when I had enough money to race cars, but that all changed. But these guys have got the time, the money, and the inclination to race cars, and I want to introduce them to you because they put on an awful good show for you. Would you please welcome, from Edmonton, Alberta, the driver of car number 53, the 280Z GT2 machine, Harold Schmidt. Harold, take the microphone. And it was action-packed, no doubt about that.
Yeah, kind of rock'em sock'em action, wasn't it? Actually, we're ice racers up from Edmonton, and we're not really used to all the road or the visibility or the heat, so the action in the corners is nothing new to us. We just sort of stay back and let everybody sort it out, and that's kind of what happened. And I'd like to thank my sponsor, Northwest Truck, and my crew chief, my father-in-law, Gord Isaacson.
Thanks very much, Harold. To make the presentation for third place, the president of the Sports Car Club of British Columbia, Ray Steck. In second place, an old buddy of mine driving the car number 75, Pennzoil GT2 240Z from North Vancouver, John Baudouin. How you doing, Johnny? That was great. I gotta say, from the pole position, we thought it was a lock, and then things turned a little sour. You needed what? Another lap? Half a lap? Quarter of a lap?
Yeah, one more lap, and I probably would have taken this one in the big trophy, but Harold Schmidt described it perfectly, rock'em sock'em. I think the rock and sock happened to me in turn 2, and then I had to wait for the rest of the field to go by after I got spun around by somebody else and play catch-up all day long. But it was a good race. It was fun, and you know, it seemed pretty clean, and I'd like to thank the Molson Indy people for this situation, as well as the Sports Car Club of BC and the people that put this on. And always be remiss if I didn't thank the sponsors who made this possible for me, Brian Winter and Pennzoil. Great oil, no kidding. It lasts and keep the engine going. Lordco Auto Parts and all the people there, as well as Don Dakotas and Dakotas Group Racing. Thanks to all of you, I really do appreciate it. And as well as my crew, my brother Peter, his wife Vicky, Lee Shepard, my daughter Sophie, my wife, I have to thank very, very much for allowing me the time and the grace to do all this. And of course, my baby son Sean, who's going to be 1 year old on Monday.
All
Thanks.
right, John Baudouin, second place. Ray, the presentation. Hey, John, we were trying to figure out, when you were taking Formula Ford racing schools in Quebec, who was your teacher?
Richard Spinard.
How did it feel to beat the teacher?
It felt great. He was actually very gentlemanly. I don't know whether his tires were going off. It's a great car he was driving, and I can't quite remember actually where I passed him. I think it was under braking or on the straightaway. It was all a blur now, but it was very gentlemanly of him to not really let me by, but he didn't do anything to stop me. And I'd also like to thank him for coming in this race. I think it adds a certain something to it.
No kidding. Thanks very much, John. And now, the winner of the SCCBC Sedan Invitational, in a new class of race car that we haven't seen on the streets of Vancouver before, would you please welcome the driver of car number 77, the Proformance Monte Carlo, the winner of this race, Glenn Nixon.
Thank you.
Glenn, nice job. Well, they must build them tough because a lot of your compatriots spent some time in the tire walls with those, and that worked out good for you.
Yeah, they didn't have a very good start to the weekend. They spent most of the time in the wall, but the crew we have is really good, and they managed to get most of the cars back out on the field. Good job by the crew. I especially like to thank Proformance Racing, BF Goodrich Tires, Quaker State, and I can't thank the crew enough for doing such a great job on the car. My motor was going pretty much south the whole race. Ran with pretty much only 20 pounds oil pressure, but it held together. So we'd like to thank Quaker State for making the good oil to make it all the way into the race.
That's great, Glenn, and I want to thank you. Tell me, from a member of the Sports Car Club of British Columbia, it looks like a fairly recent member, judging from the condition of your suit patch. What does it mean for you guys to run in an event like this, a world-class event in front of a world-class group of people such as the put on by the Molson Indy Vancouver?
Molson Indy is great. It's a good chance for all of us not-so-pro racers to get out in front of all the people of Vancouver and show them what we're all about.
And it's my understanding that if you thought Glenn drove a pretty nice race today, you can go out to Mission Raceway and get involved with the Proformance organization, and he will teach you to drive one of those cars. Am I right?
Yeah, that's right. I'm chief instructor of Proformance Racing. You too can drive the exact same car I was driving, as well as those 10 other ones you've seen out there for $5.99. Just call 1-800-567-RACE.
And that is the end of the commercial portion of the program. Glenn Nixon, please receive the trophy from the president of the Sports Car Club of BC in commemorating your victory here at the 1998 Molson Indy Vancouver. Ladies and gentlemen, your 3 top place winners. All right, and as the champagne is about to be unleashed, I will bid you a fond farewell. We look forward to talking to you bright and early tomorrow morning. Good night, everybody, and please take care.
Thank you, David Kincaid, as the champagne is uncorked on the victory podium here at the Molson Indy. We've seen a very entertaining and exciting Sports Car Club of British Columbia run here this afternoon at the Molson Indy Vancouver. Again, gates open at 8 a.m. tomorrow. On behalf of our fellow announcing colleagues, Tom Michaels, Greg Kramer, Chris McClure, Ray Steck, and David Kincaid, this is Pat Gonzalez saying on behalf of Molson's, do take care as you leave the facility, and please don't drink and drive. We'll see you back out here tomorrow. Again, gates open at 8 o'clock. The PPG Indy Lights race goes at 10:30. The 9th annual Molson Indy Vancouver with Dario Franchitti on the pole position will take the green flag at 1 p.m. Have a pleasant evening. We'll see you back out here tomorrow for the Molson Indy Vancouver.